Welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here. And today we have a very interesting video as we're doing a YouTube politics community collaboration with our friend over at Unbiased election projections. So today we're going to be doing a swing state analysis, and we're going to talk about 6 crucial swing states in this election and talk about all these different states. So welcome, UAP.
Hi Purple, how you doing?
I'm doing great. So do you have anything to say to your followers?
Hi subscribers. I hope you're joining me in Purple here for this collab that we're really looking forward to bringing you guys. So we're going to be talking about 6 important swing states that we think are going to tip the outcome of the election to either Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And right now, most of them are favoring Biden, but again, a lot of stuff can change, and there is no winner until the last vote has been counted. So we're going to get right into this, and I hope that you stick around for the full video to hear all the commentary that we have to bring you.
So before we begin, we're going to ask you guys, if you see anything that you hear that you kind of agree with or disagree with, please mention it down in the comments, as we all want to have a discussion. So let's get started by going in through and defining what is a swing state. So UP, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, alright, so I know it sounds kind of stupid because you're like, I've been watching all your videos, but this is actually interesting because some people say a swing state is a tilt state or a lean state, or both. So me and Purple both have it as tilt and lean, and a swing state is a state that generally does tend to pick the winner of an election. A good example is Ohio, but this election, Ohio is probably going to go for Donald Trump, even though he may very well lose this election. So not really bellwethers, but more states that are going to be really, really close that we think are kind of going to be a bellwether, but also may not be.
Yeah, so similarly, like he said, swing states are usually, some people call competitive states swing states, which honestly, that is a good depiction. But as well, we also must consider that real swing states are those that really swing, that they honestly have a probability of flipping to each side. So generally speaking, there's a difference, and a lot of people see swing states as competitive states. And we just have to put in our minds that swing states are those that can actually have a very high chance of flipping or being a flip-flop state in the polls, where someone might be leading one day, the next day the other person leading, and back and forth. So I think we have a clear answer on that, and let's move on to our first state. So UP, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, alright, so North Carolina is a state that it won for Donald Trump by 4 in 2016, won for Mitt Romney by 5 in 2012, and it won for Obama narrowly by less than 1% in 2008. So as you can see, the Republicans in the past few elections have had an edge here, but it's always been very close. Even in 2000, when Al Gore didn't really run a very strong campaign in the South, and part of the reason that he lost Florida, but North Carolina actually was pretty close. He lost it by a likely margin. Same in 2004. John Kerry, who got murdered all across the board with minorities. So this has always been a close state. And Democrats, even though they haven't been winning it until like 2008, they've always had a Democratic governor or a Democratic senator. For those of you who remember, Kay Hagan, she served for 2008 to 2014, and they elected Roy Cooper as their governor in 2016. So there certainly are a lot of Democrats who've had success in North Carolina. And all Joe Biden needs to do is flip it. He needs to concentrate a lot of money there, obviously, and he needs to drive a black turnout, which is going to either, if there's lower black turnout, Trump's going to win North Carolina. If there's higher turnout, Biden could very well end up victorious here. Purple?
Yeah, that is actually, this is a very interesting state because over the last couple of years and the last couple of elections, we've seen a Republican trend with Mitt Romney and Donald Trump, of course. But one thing we must notice is also that this state has changed a lot in demographics over the last couple of 4 years. So over the last 4 years, there's been economic growth and a very high tech boom in areas of North Carolina. That brings a lot of Democratic voters. Along with that, we also have the black turnout. If black turnout is high enough, Democrats could win the state by a lot. This is one of the reasons Hillary Clinton did not win the state of North Carolina. It was because she underperformed Obama with black turnout. So this is truly one of the interesting states of this election. And it's one of those states that's always been very toss-up. And even when Democrats have won in the past, we can see it's not impossible because, as UEP said, we've seen governors and senators from there, and even Barack Obama won it in 2008. So, you have anything else to say about the state of North Carolina?
Yeah, I do want to mention one thing, which is the voter suppression thing about the South. And there is some voter suppression going on. That's a topic for another day, though. But that should not be happening in North Carolina because there is a Democratic Secretary of State and a Democratic governor, Governor Roy Cooper, and I'm forgetting the Secretary of State's name. But if kind of like in 2004, where in Ohio, John Kerry barely lost that state, but it came down to provisional ballots in whether they were counted or not. And the state had a Republican governor and a Republican Secretary of State. That did not help Kerry at all. Same with Florida in the year 2000. Jeb Bush, George Bush's brother, was the governor of Florida. So if it does come down to provisional ballots or higher counting votes, Democrats should be very happy about where this state is.
Now, one question I do have, and let's not jump too much into a rabbit hole, but just I want a quick answer for you. Is that, do you think voter suppression is party affiliated, only Republican governors do it, or is it a thing where generally all types of parties do it?
I think that the Republicans are more known for it. I'm not going to speak for. I'm not going to say the Democrats don't do it because I'm not entirely aware of Democrats doing it. I haven't seen any recent examples of them doing it, but certainly, there are some people who think that both parties do it. Although I think most can agree that the Republicans are more famous for doing it. Well, actually, they're 100% more famous for doing it, and they have done it most recently in the 2018 Georgia gubernatorial election, where Brian Kemp was the Secretary of State, meaning he was counting the votes for his own election. He denied thousands of black people their votes. He rejected a ton of provisional ballots and wouldn't send another 17,000 absentee ballots. And absentee ballots, as we all know, do tend to favor the Democrats. So it does really come down to Secretary of State, and voter suppression is real, but I don't expect it to happen in North Carolina this year.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting thing. And it's not only the South. It's pretty much nationwide, where generally you have Republican governors or secretaries of state. But that does not mean anything. Party affiliation doesn't really matter. It's just some specific governors and some secretaries of state do it. But generally speaking, it's more known to be Republican, but sometimes it could be Democrats. So I think that's with the state of North Carolina. And how would we classify it? How do you think this state will
So for those of you who don't watch my videos, I characterize North Carolina as a till Democratic state because as of right now, Joe Biden is on the path to victory. I think me and Purple both agree on that, right, Purple?
Yeah, so I actually put it in the till column as well. And I think basically what's going to push him over the top is the African-American vote.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. Continue.
The growth among the North Carolina, the tech cities, because there's new tech cities, coming up and coming tech cities in North Carolina, which that vote generally trends also to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so you're getting an influx of college-educated voters, which educated voters do tend to go to the Democrats. They went for Hillary Clinton overwhelmingly in 2016, and they even went for Democrats who lost big, or not big, but John Kerry. He lost the popular vote, and and to be honest, he's probably gonna be the last Democrat in history to lose the popular vote. He even won a huge majority of the voters. So yeah, it's like Purple said, a lot of college-educated voters coming in North Carolina.
So that's the state of North Carolina, and now we're going to move to our next state, which is the state of Florida. So for those of you that don't know, I am from the state of Florida. So I'm going to tell you that this state is a very interesting state. It's always been flip-floppy over the last election years. Donald Trump won it in 2016, my bad, by around 2%. And Barack Obama won it both times he was elected. And it truly has been a very flip-floppy state. So generally speaking, this state is very close because of two major things: Latino turnout and the African-American vote. The state of Florida is not seen as one of those heavy African-American turnout places, but they have a lot of representation when it comes to the voting in the electorate. So as of right now, there's many different factors, and this state truly has different types of voters. You have a lot of college-educated voters. You have the Latino voters that lean more to the Republican Party. But you also have the millennials, which there's a lot of millennials here in the state of Florida, and also Gen Z voters that are starting to vote again. And all these different things. And demographically, it's trending a lot more Democratic, but that does not mean that Republicans absolutely do not have a chance in the state of Florida. UP.
Yeah, that was a great analysis. I think Florida is so interesting because it really depends on who votes and who doesn't vote. Um, in 2016, Hillary Clinton, I thought that she was going to have huge Latino turnout, and that's why I thought that she was going to win the state of Florida. Now she didn't. She lost it by I think a little less than 2%. So it's still really close. Like she didn't get blown out, but like certainly she had a path to victory there, and she couldn't mobilize the Latino vote, so she couldn't use it to defeat Donald Trump, which is what cost her. If Biden does lose Florida, that's what's going to cost him again. So Democrats have to up or increase turnout from Latinos, but I think they also they have to reach out and do something they haven't done since maybe Al Gore or John Kerry. They need to reach out towards towards I guess you could say the boomers or the older generation that are turning away from Trump, especially in Florida because Florida right now is getting hit pretty hard by COVID-19. So and they're turning away from Trump, as I mentioned, and Democrats have to make an effort to reach out to them. And they're not going to win the majority of those voters, especially in the panhandle of Florida, which is very red. But if they do enough to get, maybe they should aim for 35 to 40% of the vote, then they can certainly have, or Biden getting 40% of the older vote in Florida, 65 and over vote in Florida would be game over for Trump in probably not only in Florida, but across the whole country. So if Biden can reach out to those voters just enough, he can certainly win Florida and take the election by a pretty big margin.
Yeah. So generally speaking, the older vote is a very big group in the state of Florida, and truly, if you can have big margins with them, you have a very good voting bloc. And I think another interesting thing that we must see with the state of Florida, it's not based on winning some swing counties. Yeah, there are swing counties in the state of Florida, but there's like only one or two, maybe three. Just saying what you consider a swing county. For that reason, in the state of Florida, it's important to overperform in your strongholds. So for the Democrats, that would be areas like Miami-Dade County or Broward County, which are known to go Democratic. So if Democrats start losing a lot of support there, you also have to remember, well, Duval County, which is a big swing county in the state of Florida, that's where Jacksonville is. If, for example, the Democrats win Duval County, but they lose their support down in the other two counties, that's kind of like evens out, so there won't be an advantage there. So what do you think would be the margin of victory, and who do you think wins in the state of Florida?
Okay, so just one thing. I think that Duval County, if I'm correct, has gone for the Republicans every year, even during Obama. But you're right. It is a swing county and has narrowed up, and it is trending to the left. So we could see it flip in 2020 if Biden does well enough there, or 2024. It'll probably be a tilt blue county. But anyways, I think Biden's gonna win Florida, kind of like I said, with the older vote turning away from Trump, and just high turnout, because this is poised to be a high turnout election, much higher than 2012 or 2016. And Biden, I think, is going to not make the same mistakes that Hillary Clinton made in 2016 and get the turnout just high enough that he can pull off a victory in Florida. Now, Trump can certainly win Florida, but as of right now, if the election were to be held today or tomorrow, I think Biden would win Florida by a tilt margin, maybe even a lean, but I'll say tilt for right now.
I would disagree with you. This is the thing. So with the state of Florida, I mean, election. If we're talking about election day was today, yeah, I think Biden could win by a tilt. Yeah, or like you even said, lean margin. But by the time that we get to election day, I think that Donald Trump would have a lead in the state of Florida simply because of the fact that Joe Biden is being painted as this person has very low charisma and he seems a little bit sleepy. And honestly, that's going to hurt him a lot, because I guess a lot of these older voters, which is truly what really matters, they see that as like they're not voting for themselves. Most of them, they're voting for their kids and their grandkids. So those people see that maybe someone's not as prepared like Joe Biden, in the sense not as prepared, but rather they're not as charismatic. And then when it comes to like negotiating with other countries and things like that, they would rather vote for someone like Donald Trump. But it's a very complicated state to predict, because historically it has 2000 election. And yeah, that's what I think about the state of Florida.
Yeah, yeah, good analysis. I can certainly see it going to Trump. I mean, he did win it in 2016, and again, I'll be upfront about this. I thought Hillary was going to win Florida, so I could be wrong again. But yeah, that's I think it right for Florida.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
So now we're gonna move on to the next state, UAP.
Okay, so just so just so the viewers know, I picked 3 swing states in purple. Pick 3. I picked Michigan because Michigan right now, I think we all agree. Even Red Eagle Politics says that Michigan is going to go towards the Democrats now. He said it'll be tilt, but in my predictions, and I watched Purple's earlier today, both of us have it as a likely Democrat, and it could be lean, could be likely, but the point is Michigan definitely favors Biden. Everyone knows that. But Democrats, I think, are starting to sleep on Michigan. I know I am, and like 3 months ago, I would have said Michigan is a tilt or toss-up state. Again, high point for Biden, but still, if the Democrats sleep on Michigan, it'll put it back into play. And right now, it's still in play for Trump, but it'll be at the level of Florida or North Carolina. And I think Michigan is important to talk about because the Democrats really cannot afford to lose Michigan. If they lose Michigan, it'll be kind of like the Republicans losing Georgia. Or, yeah, same thing, because Georgia favors the Republicans, but Democrats could flip it. And funnily enough, 16 electoral votes for both states. Michigan, so I think it'll go for Biden, but if he sleeps on it, it could certainly flip to the Republicans. Now, I do want to talk about one thing, and not a lot of people talk about this, but I'm actually going to talk about this. Hillary Clinton, she made no effort to reach out to middle-class workers, and that's why she lost Michigan. And she lost it, as we all know, by I think 9,000 votes, so it was 0.23%, so it was very, very close. And I remember, I think the election was over by then because Trump had edged past 270, but my jaw dropped when Trump won Michigan. I just never saw that. Like, I was saying it was a safe Democratic state, or it was going to be likely. So, again, Michigan can pull out a surprise for us, but I think, well, the one thing to watch is that Hillary Clinton still got 48% of the vote there. She still only lost it by 0.25%. She still was very competitive there. Even though Donald Trump made every effort in the world to reach out to these people. That's why I think Hillary didn't try. Trump tried 100%, and she still barely lost it. I think Biden, his whole campaign is centered around the middle class. He talks about creating jobs. Middle class is the soul of America, that kind of thing. And I think that rhetoric is going to bring Michigan back to the Democratic column, and that's my prediction. Michigan going blue by a likely margin. Purple?
Yeah, so if you guys haven't watched my latest election prediction, so one thing that I said was that, remember guys, that what you're seeing with polling right now is at Joe Biden's absolute hype rate. Why? We're like seeing the effects of the pandemic hit again, and with the civil uprising nationwide about the policing movement and the racial justice movement, that is going to help out Biden. Now, as we're closer to election day, we're going to start seeing a little bit more of Trump favor momentum, in the sense that momentum for Biden is going to stop, and maybe we're going to start seeing going a little bit more to the right. So at this point in time, I also think that Michigan might go by a likely margin, just because of the fact that the state of Michigan could bring on a surprise, but their voters, like, they kind of vote in blocks for the majority. And of course, there's always going to be a couple voters that might stay with the Trump campaign. But remember also one thing: these voters vote on the economy. The Rust Belt is mostly voted because of the economy. They're one voter issues for the most part. So they vote for the economy, and it's shown that the American public, they trust Trump more with the economy than they might do with Biden, just according to the latest economic approval polls.
Yeah, those are really good points. And the economy is really important, and I think it's the number one issue for families that are living paycheck to paycheck. But I think that Trump, he's going to tout the economy. Like, pre-COVID, I thought it was going to be Trump bragging about the economy the whole time, and then Biden trying to, point out, Trump said sexist stuff, or, this kind of and that was why prior to COVID, I thought Biden was going to lose the election, because he just doesn't have enough charisma to have an insane turnout that would shock the world, and well, not shock the world, but like shock a lot of people. But now I think that Biden is in the driver's seat, and right now all he has to do, I think, is keep talking to these people and say the economy is bad right now, and it's Trump's fault. And I know Trump didn't create COVID, but I mean he hasn't done a ton in the public's view to address it. I mean, his handling of COVID is at like 40% approval rating. His approval is at 40.7%. I checked this morning. So certainly the economy, as Purple said, is very important. But I think right now Trump is not in the same position that he was 4 months ago to tout the economy.
Yes, and also I think Donald Trump was probably when the coronavirus first started. He was probably still a little bit likely to win the election, but I think the biggest death stone for Donald Trump's campaign was truly the death of George Floyd. That is what truly put the stone that Joe Biden has a higher and more likely chance to win the election. I think that post the death of George Floyd and post Black Lives Matter movement, Donald Trump is going to have a harder road at the presidency than people may have thought.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, George Floyd, I think, could be, if Biden wins, and right now he's on the path to victory, assuming everything stays status quo till election day. It's probably not going to, though. But if we say Biden wins and 2 years later, looking back on this election, saying George Floyd's death was the nail in the coffin for Trump. Maybe or maybe it was COVID, or maybe it's something that's going to happen in August that, like some tapes are leaked of Trump saying something that's going to polarize a lot of Americans. But also, going back to what I said, North Carolina, high black turnout, Michigan of the Rust Belt states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan easily has the highest black population. And in the midterms, 90% of the black vote went to the Democrats. 95% of the black female vote went to the Democrats. So again, high black turnout, and kind of like Purple just mentioned 2 seconds ago, George Floyd's death, that's certainly only going to help Biden.
Yeah. So one last thing before we move on, we also have to know that there's a very important Senate race here. I mean, it's not like it's super contested, but it could have something to do with, especially since John James is African American himself, and that might get some more votes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you want to say something?
Oh, sorry. Are you done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so interesting thing that you brought up. Also, North Carolina, a really tight Senate race, but I already made a video about it, and I'm sure that Purple has covered it sometime, but we're not going to be talking about that. But Michigan, just a quick thing. If Gary Peters somehow loses to John James, which he's probably not going to, I have it as likely, Peters could be close, but I don't think it'll be like an 8-9 point win for Peters, maybe 6-7. But if Peters loses this race, Democrats are done in the Senate. I mean, unless they somehow, I guess if they lose Michigan, they're probably losing in North Carolina, in Montana, and Kansas. So, yeah.
So, now, since we're done with the state of Michigan, we're going to move on to the state of Wisconsin, right next door. So, this state, I think, is also very interesting, because this state is a little different. Comparing it to a state like Michigan, this state is very rural. There's a lot of farms here, as well there's a lot of the white working class voter and just the blue collar worker that live in the state of Wisconsin. This state, historically, it's been Democratic. I mean, it flipped in 2016. It was a close race in 2004, if I'm correct. And in 2008 and 2012, we saw somewhat competitive races, especially since Paul Ryan was Mitt Romney's VP nominee. But generally speaking, this state has been very interesting to see, because out of all the Rust Belt states, I see this state being somewhat the closest out of all the Rust Belt states. So, UEP, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, just so you guys know, Purple was he was running the mark for 2004. It was a 0.3% margin of victory for John Kerry. So, I think it was only a little bit more, actually, I think that's narrower than, because I think Trump went up by like 0.45%. Yeah, so it was actually more narrow than 2016, if that's possible, but it was. And Al Gore, I think he won this by only a couple of thousand votes. So 2004, Democrats lost, but they won Wisconsin barely. I mean, barely. 2008, it went to Obama by a safe margin. Or I think actually, no. It was, 15, 14 points. So I have that as safe. I think Purple might have it as likely. I'm not sure. But
I consider it like safe anything above 15%.
oh, I have it as 12%. Yeah, so basically, but we both agree that's a lopsided mark. 2012, it was closer because, as Purple mentioned, Paul Ryan was Mitt Romney's vice president. And for those of you who don't know, Mitt Romney is a former congressman from Wisconsin, former Speaker of the House.
Paul Ryan.
Yeah, Paul Ryan. So, but it still didn't flip, which is why I think that like a lot of people didn't expect it to flip to Trump in 2016, including Hillary Clinton. She didn't see it coming. She didn't, I mean, crazy stat I saw. She only visited during the election. She visited Wisconsin once in April, which is we all know how that turned out for her. Whereas Donald Trump, he spoke. I think he visited. Yeah, but he just went there a lot, and he invested a lot of money here. So Wisconsin is certainly an interesting state, and there are a lot of people that really think that Wisconsin is going to stay red, and I can see that, and I have it as tilt because this is not a very diverse state. It's like 88% white, I believe, which is not usually great news for the Democrats. But again, a lot of those voters are working class voters, and white working class voters do tend to vote to the left of the white vote overall. So like white uneducated voters are solid red voters, and then white college educated voters are usually lean, likely Dem voters. But the middle class really, the white middle class, some of them are college educated, most are not. They're going to determine the fate of Wisconsin. So Biden has made an effort to reach out to these people, and I think he'll win it by a tilt margin. Purple?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I kind of agree. I'm going to say the same thing I said about Florida. By the time we get to election day, if Donald Trump can get a better message out than Biden, we could definitely see the state go to Donald Trump. But like one thing that I see is that Biden has somewhat of a strong grasp with white working class voters and just working class voters in general. But one thing that I haven't seen him do is like he's said to have like all this support from white working class and things like that. But if you look at it and just think about it, the primaries, although they were like not heavily contested in a lot of these states because by the time we got there, but Michigan almost went to Sanders. And that comes to show that there's also a very big millennial population, so we don't know how the Bernie bros are going to vote. So that's something we should look out for.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, there was only like one, Super Tuesday was like the last contested primary that we had. Or I mean, I guess Super Tuesday too, but Sanders was done by then in my opinion. But Minnesota was the only state that was in the Rust Belt that held their primary, I believe, on Super Tuesday, and it went for Biden because I think it was because Klobuchar endorsed him. And
I'm pretty sure that also the state of Michigan had their primary, right?
No, that was a week later.
Oh yeah, that was Super Tuesday too, right?
Yeah, and that was actually the day my school shut down, and I came home and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun. 2 weeks of school." Yeah, we all know how that turned out. But so Michigan was so Sanders did actually outperform. He got like 40% of the vote there, maybe a little less, but he was already done by then. So it was actually a pretty strong showing for him. But Michigan, so going over to Wisconsin, Bernie Sanders, I think he did something pretty strategic. For those of you who don't know, there was a special Supreme Court election in Wisconsin between Jill Karofsky and Daniel Kelly, and Bernie said, and conspiracy theory by UAP, but I think he didn't drop out because he wanted to get the Bernie bros out for voting for Jill Karofsky, and she won that race by 125,000 votes, and I think Bernie got like 80,000 votes there, so that certainly helped her. And again, there are a lot of millennials in Wisconsin who did go for Bernie, who might not vote. I think that in Wisconsin they're probably going to go for Biden, but again, I'm not sure about that. Although Wisconsin did trend blue in the midterms because Tammy Baldwin, she won re-election by 11 points, and they flipped the governor's seat. They threw out Scott Walker, who was the incumbent Republican governor.
Unpopular, though.
Yeah, he was pretty unpopular, so it wasn't like some crazy popular guy. I mean, he had some scandals that kind of hurt him. But yeah, so Scott Walker lost to Tony Evers. Yeah, so Tony Evers is now the governor of Wisconsin. So it did trend to the left.
If we put the state of Minnesota on the list, I don't think we did. But just now that we're on the topic of the midterms, the state of Minnesota was actually it trended the most red when it comes out of the Rust Belt states. Well, along with Pennsylvania, I think, as well.
Wait, but didn't Amy Klobuchar win? Oh, do you mean in House or Senate?
Like House, but
okay.
I would put more focus on the House races than like Senate races, because with the Senate race, it's pretty hard to tell because they're incumbents, so they can be popular, and especially with someone like Amy Klobuchar, that's like technically I would call her a Republican in Democrats' voting.
Yeah, she got like 65% of the vote, so obviously there were a lot of Republicans voting for her. But all right, moving on.
Yeah. So next, it's your turn.
All right. So thanks, Purples. Arizona, I think, is everyone's. I think this is. Well, the media has covered Arizona the most out of any state that is considered a swing state, and for good reason. I mean, for me, swing state, I think of Arizona. And I know, Florida, maybe North Carolina, Pennsylvania, but Arizona, to me, is the swing state of swing states. But because I think that in terms of chance of winning, it's the closest out of all of the... Actually, maybe North Carolina, but point is, it's going to be really close in terms of chance of winning. But I think whoever wins this is going to win it by a little more than... I think if Trump win by a tilt, but I could see Biden carrying this by a lean or even a likely margin. And that's because of one person. His name is Mark Kelly. And for those of you who don't know, Mark Kelly is a candidate for Senate in Arizona. And we're not going to be really talking about Senate that much in this video. But Kelly is going to only help Biden. He's polling very well. I think the polls have him ahead by a likely or safe margin against McSally. But certainly, Kelly's going to help Biden. So, and... my model has Kelly ahead by 8 to 9 points in that race, and I think he'll win it by a likely margin. And I think Purple is with me on that, I believe. So,
with the state of Arizona, I would say that generally speaking, it's trending Democratic, and I just wanted to discuss the poll. So I got in a lot of comments in the comment section saying that Gravis just put out a poll +4 for both Republicans in Arizona. Yeah. So I wanted to know what you thought about that.
It was Gravis marketing. It's a C minus rated poll by 538. And altogether, I think it's an outlier. Like, I think in the middle of May, there was some poll that came out, like Gallup, and it had Trump at like 49% approval. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, Trump's at 49% approval," and I was like, "Wait a minute, it's going up." But it was just an outlier, and I think that there are a lot of Republicans who are going to tout that poll, and it's actually pretty ironic. Because most Republicans don't tend to trust the polls. But that, to be honest, I'll dismiss that poll because it's an outlier, and literally every other poll you look at, even polls that are released on the same day, have Kelly and Biden ahead. So, again, Trump could win, or he has a very good chance. I give him like a 45% chance of winning Arizona. And McSally is probably not going to win Arizona, but again, she's not completely done, but she's probably not going to win.
Yeah, because remember, McSally, well, now we're talking about Senate. McSally is very unpopular, and that would affect, if you can tell that McSally is unpopular, you can somewhat tell that Donald Trump's unpopular. Because McSally was literally a Trump candidate. Like, during the midterms of 2018, we saw many candidates that ran on the Trump platform. So those people, like McSally, are very unpopular. So that kind of tells that the president is unpopular.
Yeah, and, for those of you who don't know, Martha McSally, she lost in the midterm elections to Kyrsten Sinema. Even though the polls had her ahead, I thought she was going to win. I underestimated Sinema, and the polls had McSally ahead, and she still lost. And that just shows voters rejected her at the ballot box to a pretty unknown candidate. And now she's going up against a former astronaut and husband of a popular former congresswoman. So it's not boding well for Martha McSally, and I think everyone knows that.
Yeah, and I think something else that we have to mention, and it's barely ever talked about, is that the state of Arizona, like, one interesting thing is that for the majority, like, the impact of mail-in ballots is huge because a lot of the families that live in the state of Arizona are military families. So they have people that live abroad or working off of military bases, and that's why on midterm night, we had like a very long period of time where McSally was leading even well into the morning, and Kirsten Sinema got her lead later on that day. But it's not comparing it with the Senate race. I'm just saying that if you look at like the polls and how they come in, the votes, that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving on. Wait, hold on. But I have Arizona as lean Democratic. How about you?
I have it as lean Democratic as well. I could see it go likely if like Mark Kelly's support does very well for like Democrats like in all ballots. But since Arizona is one of those states that votes down ballot a lot, I would say it's lean Democratic.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Arizona in the midterms, Sinema won by 2.4%, and they reelected Doug Ducey, a Republican, by I think 14%. So yeah, certainly not a down ballot state. So there were a lot of Republicans voting.
We had a very popular and famous senator, John McCain, who was from the state of Arizona, and he won re-election by almost 16%, something like that, when Donald Trump only won by 3 points in 2016. So that's the state of Arizona, and the last state, I think, if I'm correct, is the state of Georgia. So this state is heavily influenced for the Democrats by African-American vote. African-American vote is low. Democrats do not have a chance at winning the state of Georgia. And I think, honestly, people like Stacey Abrams would be a very big influence in the state of Georgia in trying to get out that vote like she did for her governor's race. And honestly, with the state of Georgia, it was pretty close in Georgia standards in 2016. And one reason we must see that is that the people in the state of Georgia like moderate Republicans. They like a Mitt Romney. They like a John McCain. Those type of people. But with Donald Trump, he's a political outsider. They like political insiders, especially if they're Republican. So with that, I think the hatred for Trump in that state and the African American population might be able to push it a little bit closer for Biden, but probably not even enough to push it over the top.
Yeah, I think kind of like Michigan, one candidate has a clear edge, and in this case, it's Donald Trump, because this is a red state. Even Obama, in a landslide Democratic year, he lost the state by, I think, like 5 or 6 points. So again, he lost by 8. Yeah, so he lost by a pretty big margin for a swing state. But for me, it comes down to this state. I think if we see voter suppression anywhere, it's going to be in Georgia. A Republican governor, Brian Kemp, who has a long history of suppressing the vote, in a Republican Secretary of State, which is just really, really bad news overall for the Democratic Party. And I think that they should be concerned about Georgia, because if we had a fair election in Georgia, I think we could see this going to Biden, or even a toss-up kind of thing. But the Republicans have all the edges in terms of how they're going to be counting the votes. I think we're going to see a lot of absentee ballots be rejected, and a lot of provisional ballots be rejected as well. And just, again, there are not a lot of initiatives for black Georgians who if they voted would go Democratic in overwhelming numbers to vote. Stacey Abrams, she knocked on doors. She got a lot of people out to vote, and I give her a lot of credit for that. But she reached her peak in Georgia, and I don't see Biden doing any better than she did. And she lost by 2 points.
Yeah, the state of Georgia is, like, again, like one of those states like Michigan that's going to be close. Like, not maybe margin-wise not, but, like, the race is going to be contested heavily. But it's favoring one party, which is the Republicans, like you said. And honestly, I think what would be the huge blow for Donald Trump here would be the suburban vote. If you have, like, parts of the suburban vote that are not African-American, go for the Biden campaign. I think Donald Trump's done in the state. As long as he holds on to the rural vote and the suburban vote in the non-African-American areas, because he doesn't have that much support in those areas, he's going to do fine. Donald Trump.
Yeah, he'll probably win Georgia. So I have it as lean Republican. Although, interesting to note that JHK forecasts, I think 2 days ago, they put Biden ahead, like giving him like a 52% chance of winning Georgia, which I don't think that's going to happen. But interesting to note. So yeah, I have it as lean Republican. How about you, Purple?
I have it right now as a lead Republican state as well. It's just the mere fact that Trump has a lot of support in the state. And yeah, African-American support and is going to be somewhat high for this election. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump has a big enough base that even with the support from the African Americans for the Democrats, it will still go to Donald Trump. So let's go to our last state. That's it. So those are all our 6 states. Again, we didn't talk about all the swing states, so then we would be here forever. I'm sorry if this was quite a long video because it was a very interesting one. Some key swing states we missed was Texas, maybe the state of Pennsylvania. Other than that, that's pretty much all the really contested ones. That's it.
Also, Nebraska's 2nd district, and some people consider Nevada to be a swing state. It kind of is, but I think these are the 6 most important because I think all these states are going to be closer than, well, actually Pennsylvania, I think, but I think that all these states, except for Michigan, maybe, will be closer than Texas, than Maine's 2nd district, closer than South Carolina, closer than Nevada. So yeah.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video because it was a really good video. Go subscribe to my channel, Untitled Talk, and go subscribe to UEP's channel, Unbiased Election Projections. And we both have a goal of getting to 500 subscribers soon. And yeah, go and help us to get to this goal. UEP, do you want to say anything?
Yes, I want to thank you for bearing with us. I know this is a long video. I think this is like 30, 40 minutes. Yeah, so this was a long video. But again, a lot of stuff to cover. And we probably missed something. So if we did, tell us in the comment section. I don't know about Purple's end, but on my end, I will be putting Purple Political Talk channel in the... Sorry, I'll put the link to his channel in the description of my video, and I hope that you check it out. He has a lot of good commentary, similar to me. And if you're subbed to me and not Purple, please go over to his channel and just hit the red button. And I hope if you're a subscriber for Purple, I hope you'll give me a chance as well. So yeah, that's basically it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So yeah.
Yeah, so one last thing is that I'm gonna put his channel up in the iCard. That's easier, so you guys can just press it and go. And yeah, so if you have anything to say about this video, please tell us. And I hope you enjoy this video because we put a lot of work into it. And remember to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications to get notified when we post our next video.
All right.
So,
yep, I'm signing off. Bye, Purple.